What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is the 30th episode of Perhaps. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you all. And this is an interesting time that we're in right now. Zohran Mamdani is the new mayor, the mayor-elect of New York City, a Muslim socialist. And it's funny. It's funny. As I say that, I'm like, if you have no idea who I'm talking about, a Muslim socialist, that just sounds like a typical label hurled by several right-wing commentators. I'm just your Christian socialist homie here with a little bit of my thoughts on the Muslim socialist homie Zohran Mamdani becoming the new mayor. But I laugh because it's like so many people have been labeled Muslim when they're not Muslim and socialist when they're not socialist. But this guy actually is a Muslim and actually is and constantly calls himself a socialist, democratic socialist, huge backing from the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. And of course, someone who finally is actually a Muslim and actually is a socialist was running for office, for mayor, and he won. It didn't matter. All the Islamophobia, all the Red Scare tactics didn't matter. I'm also remembering, I keep having these flashbacks of being a kid and hearing what people said about Obama. And just constantly calling him a Muslim socialist. That guy was actually neither. But he also was called constantly a Muslim socialist. And it's been interesting times because these Christian nationalists really, really did a lot to try to stop him. Funded by a huge disinformation campaigns funded by billionaire capitalists who did a lot to try to stop him. And one of my favorite comments from Zohran was, "Y'all are spending more money to try to stop me than the amount that I want to tax you," which is just a corporate tax going from 7.25% to 11.5%, which is just the corporate tax that New Jersey has. It's not that radical. Also, for anyone making more than $1 million a year, a flat 2% tax, which isn't that radical. It's only radical because of how deregulated everything has become in neoliberal capitalism and all of the progress of regulating businesses and all that progress in the early 20th century rolled back in horrible ways that now we think the normal default is these huge tax breaks. But no, come on now. Things could be different. Things were made this way, so therefore things can change. That's what I always say. And so this little podcast episode will just be a little bit of let's keep talking about this. Some of my thoughts on this mayoral election. Also some thoughts about the use of the word socialism in the media lately. Also, Zohran's use of the word socialism. Is it actual socialism? Is it not? His policies actually aren't socialist, but they're being framed as like the most far left communist, Stalinist, Maoist regime ever to be created. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. If we have time, actually, no, we'll make time. This is my podcast. We'll make time to talk about some movies I've seen recently that also touch on class inequality, Bugonia and Good Fortune. I've been going back to the movies lately. It's felt great. And trying to think of anything else to give y'all a preview of what's to come. Also, I just, I've been working on this YouTube video. It'll be up now. As I'm saying this, it'll be up. If it's not up now, that means maybe there's some editing issues and it'll be up later today. So go watch my new YouTube video on my main channel. That's just called Damon Garcia. I think the video is going to be called at least something like a Muslim socialist is more like Jesus than a Christian nationalist. Spicy title, I know, but it's not clickbait. Not clickbait at all. It's good. I really like this video. And I haven't put up a YouTube video on my main channel in like 7 months. I think it was March was the last time I did one. And also several months before that one. And it's been hard to come back to YouTube like the way that I was doing it on my main channel. And these like edited videos, scripted edited videos. It's been hard to figure out like what I actually want to talk about and what would actually feel authentic, not just me yapping about something that I think would be relevant for people to click on or whatever, but something that I'm actually interested and care about. Also, something that would be relevant for people to click on. Finding the balance between that is hard, especially with YouTube, and especially just the general problems of social media these days that are just bearing everything in the algorithm and make it way harder for not just people to see your stuff that you post, but your own followers to see the stuff you post, your own subscribers. And so it's harder than ever right now to get your own followers to see your stuff because of the changes in the algorithm. But anyway, I think it was a cool video. I worked a while on it. That's also why this podcast is pretty late. I mean, I missed a couple weeks, but this also comes out on a Friday usually. It should be a Sunday. It's a Saturday night right now. I recorded a lot. Been recording a lot or writing a lot. Anyway, there's actually this moment where I say in the YouTube video that I expanded on this point on the podcast that I just did. So go watch the podcast episode if you want to hear me expand on this point. But low key, you only get this super behind the scenes exclusive secrets on the podcast, people. I was kind of lying. Is it lying? I'm not sure, because the podcast wasn't recorded yet. I recorded that video first, like an hour ago. And the plan was to record that video first and then record the podcast, because this podcast is longer, so I wanted to do it last. But I already knew I was going to expand on this point in the podcast episode. So it felt kind of slimy saying that in the video, but it's all right. Y'all know the illusion is broken, people. I'm sorry. But that's what you get with the podcast. So some of y'all are here. Some of y'all are here for this podcast. Anyway, my point is go watch that YouTube video on my main channel if you haven't already. And in this podcast, I'm going to expand a bit on a small point I made in that video, which is the point on socialism from your Christian socialist homie. Talking about Muslim socialist Zohran Mamdani. It's interesting because you look at his policies, they're all great. Free childcare, free buses. I listed them all in that YouTube video. I'm trying to remember them now because I had them written down. But different policies in order to try to battle corporate exploitation and contracts. Also deal with landlords that are exploiting people, freezing rent. Even one of the ones I thought was really interesting was holding landlords more accountable for repairs in their properties for their tenants, which you have a lot of people in a situation where it's never repaired, no matter how much they try to get their landlord to do something. And so the policy that I don't know if this is implemented anywhere else. This is the first time I've heard of this type of policy. The policy would be that we could get someone from the city to go make those repairs and then send the landlord the bill, which I think is really cool. Also, trying to raise the minimum wage to $30 by 2030. A bunch of awesome stuff that is just how, oh yeah, five city run or city owned grocery stores that will for groceries at a lower price. All really cool stuff. But the thing is, it's not technically socialism. And I'm not one of those socialist nerds that are that are here to be like, not real socialism. Let me bonk you on the head. Not real socialism. Why are you supporting this? This is not real socialism. No, I'm just meaning it in a technical sense. I don't mean it in a moral sense at all. Technically, it's not real socialism. Why does this matter? I'll try to explain. First of all, capitalism is an economic system based on private ownership of the means of production by a small class of owners, capital owners, capitalists. That's why they're called that. And they're making all the decisions for the production and distribution of goods and services. But it's all based on a profit motive. Endless production for endless profit. Socialism, on the other hand, is about the workers themselves who are doing the work of producing all these goods and services, owning and controlling the means of production, the means of producing these goods and services. So workers controlling instead of a small class of capitalists. Workers, wherever they're at, owning and controlling their own work and their own what they produce and deciding how to distribute goods and services based on need, not profit. And so that's all socialism technically is. The reason socialism gets a lot of bad rap when you point to actual socialist projects throughout history is because really what did they do in order to make this transition? You have these socialist revolutions where they took control of the state either through a violent overthrow of government powers or through actual elections. And then it's like, okay, take over the government, then transition the whole economic system into socialism. It's not just a flip of a switch. So all the criticisms, both valid and invalid, of actual socialist projects throughout history really are about how did they go about that transition, not about what socialism actually is. And then you have plenty of situations like in Latin America where the United States invaded and intentionally put a stop to socialist revolutions, killed socialist leaders, overthrew governments, regime change, made the situation so unstable, and then shrugged their shoulders and said, "This is what socialism does." It's an awful, complicated history. But if we're just talking technical terms here, socialism is just an economic system based on the workers owning the means of production. That's all. And so it's about worker control. So these, all of Zohran's policies aren't actually about worker control. I would say they're about working class health instead of working class power. None of the policies give the working class any more power, but they'll make the working class more healthy. More affordable groceries, more affordable childcare, affordable buses, making life more affordable, helping working class people suffer less. By the way, I was thinking about this. Let me finish my sentence. Helping working class people suffer less and not starve. But I was going to say, I was thinking about this because I was using this term in the video that I wrote, working class people or workers or working people. I feel like when we say working class is different from workers, and the key distinction is that word class. What the working class mean? This is also a thing that gets totally twisted in the media. Usually the media uses working class to just refer to people who do manual labor. Like, he's a real working class man. But working class, what that term means is someone within the class where they have to work to survive. In contrast to someone who owns other people's labor, like the capitalist class, or the owning class, or the ruling class, someone might call it. The working class, so you could be in the working class and not work, not have a job, or have never worked. It just means you're in the class where you have to work to survive. But maybe it's someone whose family provides for them, or the government, like someone on disability or welfare, gets money from the government. That doesn't make them not working class. They're still in the class that has to work compared to the one who owns other people's labor. And so that's what working class means. And so when I say like working class people, I'm just referring to the people within that class. I'm not referring to people who work. And I make that distinction also because I think there's been some criticism of the way that people use that term, and talking about how there could be some slight ableism in the way people talk about the working class and workers, and I think that there definitely could be, but I think it's more so when you're using the term workers or working people, and you're not careful with the way you're saying it, and you could be like leaving people out without realizing it. But personally, I think working class covers people who don't work. That's what I would say. I'm sure people would disagree with me on their, yeah, that's what happens with these terms. Everyone has their own definitions. But anyway, I just wanted to make that quick note because I was thinking about that a lot when I was writing the video and using that term. Anyway, I think Zohran's policies are more about working class health than working class power, which is good. And that's the other thing. There are some socialist nerds out there that are like, because this isn't building working class power, this is bad. But like, people are starving. People are being evicted. People need help. These are things we need. Just because it's not socialism doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not socialism. That's all. But here's a good critique. I briefly mentioned this in the video. I'll give you the socialist nerds. I'm a socialist, but I mean, when I say socialist nerds, what I really mean is the extremely online people who are overly critical of everything. I mean, some of them are cool. Some of them are my homies, but some of them are, I don't know, are not that cool. And when I say cool, I mean just like could be, yeah, just overly critical. That's what I mean. Anyway, I think a good criticism is one could look at Zohran's policies as saving capitalism, which is a criticism mostly given to social democracy in general, because that's what it is. These technically fall under the category, if you want to put them under a category, social democracy, which is capitalism, but just with more government programs, social welfare, more business regulations, or you could even call it conscious capitalism, being more conscious of how we treat workers. But so because of that, like there's very capitalist countries like in Scandinavia or Germany that have a lot of the policies that Zohran was talking about, and they're like, yeah, we're all the way capitalist. Like they just recognize that treating your workers right, caring about working class health, is like leads to people being more productive and more profit, because the workers are not dying and so they could be more productive. So that's what's funny is there's a way to frame this, that this is all like great for capitalism. Zohran's policies. And I think a normal capitalist would be like excited about it. It's like, what? These workers don't have to worry about being kicked out of New York City. They could just stay in New York City, have someone to take care of their kids, therefore be able to work more. Also a free bus ride to work. Great. That sounds like more worker productivity. But the U.S. is so far right that any policy that benefits the working class is framed as radical communism, radical totalitarian communism. And but at the same time, it's totally possible because those policies could technically fall under social democracy. Someone could be like, "Oh, he's not a real socialist." I don't think that necessarily means that. I think someone could be a socialist and want to work towards socialism and also fight for policies that would technically fall under social democracy. I just realized, like, the people who aren't socialist nerds, I feel like, what am I talking about? Why is Damon yapping about the distinction between socialism and social democracy? Normies don't care, but it's all right. I don't think normies are watching this. I don't know who's watching this or listening to this, but I think whoever is watching or listening to this does enjoy me talking, listening to me express myself. So for that reason, I'll continue. But yeah, so that's why socialists have always been a part of the fight for fighting for higher minimum wage and free healthcare and rent freezes. None of those are technically socialism, but they're helping us survive. And so it's totally possible that Zohran has, like, internally a larger vision of working class control that he does want to see in the world. But it's just not part of the platform right now. Yeah, that's fine. You do you. Also, democratic socialism tends to basically think of that transition from capitalism to socialism as something that happens electorally. Like, we get a social democratic socialist into office and in various political positions, and then we get them to implement public options so that we have public options for, like, housing and healthcare and school and all of that, and private options. And then the goal is, over time, the public options end up being more used and we could slowly dissolve the private options. That's like the democratic socialist vision of, like, this all happens very electorally within our electoral system that we have now. However, many socialists would say that doesn't work, buddy, because capitalists still exist during that whole time, and they'll do everything in their power to stop that very slow, gradual transition that you just envisioned. And they'll do everything in their power to also roll back any changes that are made. And so that's what we've seen again and again and again. Any social welfare programs that we have been able to have or increase funding to, the classic capitalist retaliation strategy is to get politicians to say, or to get anyone to say, and then eventually politicians to say, government programs don't work. They're so bad. You ever try to use this government program? It's a mess. Well, and the reality is it just needs to be funded more. But that complaint ends up leading to policy where they decrease the funding of that program and then again complain and say, oh my God, why do we even do this? This government program is such a mess. Nobody likes doing this. When it's like, again, That's because it's defunded. Now it's even worse, and there's not enough workers to contact people. These websites can't be run the way they need to run. People can't be run through these programs in the way they need to because it's so defunded. And then eventually you get to the point where they're like, why do we even have this program? Just remove it. Obviously, the private sector could do this way better. And then boom, it's gone. That's the classic strategy. And so some would argue that the strategy of reaching socialism via social democracy, via just these more social welfare programs, will always just be stopped and rolled back, which is why some would say you need to take power, seize power, and force change without capitalists being able to step in. But that's when you get into the question of violence, nonviolence. How would you actually do that? Because there is inevitably conflict in that. But there also is already conflict. This already is violent. It's the violence that the working class experiences every day, struggling to survive because of the power and the resources, the food, the means of survival being kept from us by people who have turned the means of survival into private property, into commodities to sell back to us. It already is a violent conflict. And so I'm not here to say like, which is the best strategy, which Marxist theorist is the one that we need to follow, which guy do I need to attach my identity to and add an IST at the end of his name. Nah. I just want to like just give you guys a larger perspective of this larger conversation of like the ways that socialism is used, how actual socialists use the word socialism, how they view the policies like Zohran's. And that's what's funny. And I think, The Onion, I think, posted this funny fake headline that was like, I'm going to find the exact, because the wording was great. The Onion still posts funny things. They're killing it. Oh, shoot. Oh, wait. There it is. The Onion. Hopefully. Oh, here we go. Fact-checking claims about Zohran Mamdani. Here's the fact check. The claim is Mamdani is a communist. False. Any real communist will happily spend 6 hours explaining why this isn't true. Also, for those that know, communism is a stateless, classless, moneyless society achieved through the socialism process. That's the idea for people who have used that term historically. But I'm not an encyclopedia. What are we doing here? I'm not a dictionary. I just feel like the reason I'm yapping about everything I've yapped about throughout this episode is what I'm imagining is someone who's hearing all this stuff that's been said about Zohran Mamdani and the way that all these political words have been used, and just thinking like, if your first time hearing these words is through the Zohran Mamdani campaign and its criticism of it, then you're probably so confused. And I think that's what's inspiring me to like talk about like the distinction and definitions and all that. And so, but yeah, like I said, I'm not one to just say like, oh, it's not real socialism, or you're not a real socialist. Yeah, bro's a democratic socialist. He's doing his thing, got some awesome policies that really help working class people. I think it's awesome that Zohran won. Technically not socialism, and that's okay. That's my take. That's okay. He's cool. He's good. Also, we don't worship politicians around here, so it's like, who cares? Who cares about my approval or disapproval? I don't live over there. However, what I am excited about, though, is the movement around him. I think there's a lot of people that are inspired to start really realize that we can unite and use our collective power to make changes. They tried really hard to stop this campaign, and people, there's totally a grassroots organized campaign that got him elected. And despite all these billionaires' efforts to stop it, the people won. And just being a part of that is powerful. That changes you. And I really think it can lead a lot of people to continue working together to make some positive changes that we need. And I think the reason like these little internal conflicts are running in my head of like, well, is it socialism? Is it not socialism? Is also because like some of the online spaces I've been in have been with people who get really nerdy about that and argue about all of these little distinctions. And I think it's valuable when we're trying to learn, when we're trying to like educate ourselves and be like, let's break down these terms technically. What do they mean? How have people used them in the past? How have people used these strategies in the past? Have they worked? Have they not? What have been the criticisms of them? That's all valuable. But when it's just to like dunk on each other and insult people and say, well, you're not really this because of this, you use this word or that, you quoted that theorist. I think that's all. It's all a waste. And so those are now ghosts in my brain. That now when I think about this stuff and talk about this stuff, those ghosts that I've absorbed from reading so many of those conversations online pop up in my head and are like, you have to make sure that you clarify this term and clarify that this thing does not mean this thing, and don't say this about. It's like, I want to get rid of those ghosts in my head, but like I said, it's valuable when we're trying to learn. And that's what I was trying to do throughout this podcast. This podcast episode ended up being a lot more rambly than I thought it would, but it's okay. It's a podcast. And I just want to also share a bit of some of that internal dialogue with y'all. And I think some of you watching this who have been here for a long time know exactly what the hell I'm talking about and appreciate me sharing what I just shared. So that one was for y'all. The people who've been here a really long time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People from, okay, yeah, you get it. Now let's move on. Shout out Zohran. That's my guy. Okay, let's move on for real. Bugonia. Bugonia. I think it's Bugonia, like the whitest pronunciation you could possibly say. But I saw this movie review where the guy's like, I just saw Bugonia, like a more like Hispanic pronunciation, and it had me dying laughing. Like this movie that just had 4 characters and all of them white. This guy was like, I just watched Bugonia. But wait, I need to look this up. What is it? I remember hearing the word means something. I don't remember what language it was, though. Bugonia, by the way, is the new Yorgos Lanthimos film with Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. And Stavros Halkias. Who else? That's basically it. Oh, it's a Greek word meaning ox birth. Oh, so maybe it is like, I don't know Greek pronunciations. Maybe it is Bugonia. Let me look it up. Pronunciation. Or, yeah. Wait. I need to find this. I need to find... Oh, wait. How do I do this? Wait. Greek to English. Bugonia. All right.
Bugonia. Bugonia.
Anyway, you get it. So, this movie, these guys kidnap this I think billionaire, but this pharmaceutical CEO, played by Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, and this guy who plays his cousin, kidnap her because they think she's an alien. An alien who is here to destroy the human race, and there's already signs of them destroying the human race, and the ways that they've harmed the bees and led to the decline of the bees species, the ways that they've harmed the earth, the ways that the introduction of technology, and the ways that it's totally mushing people's brains and making them enslaved to these technological devices. And he has all this evidence he's researched online. But she says, I'm not an alien. I'm just a CEO. And that's all I'll say for the premise. I don't want to give away the spoiler, but pretty much the whole movie is them arguing as she's tied up in the basement. And you keep going back and forth. Like, is she telling the truth or is she actually an alien? I don't know. But what was interesting is it also kept touching on this class division, because this guy, his mom, was put into a coma because of a botched experiment with an experimental medicine that they're trying to cure her of something. I don't remember, but and it seemed like they just didn't care. And he's like, living a life that's as an outcast in society, struggling to survive at a Amazon-like packaging job. And she's just living as this rich, fancy bourgeois CEO. And it just showing that, just the combination of these characters and the way that they conflict with each other was interesting. And it was clear they're trying to touch on this, class inequality, which you see movies doing more of these days. It was a remake of an old Korean film. I know they changed some things. I'm not sure how much they changed. But the guy who wrote the remake was also the guy who wrote the script for The Menu, which I don't remember this guy's name, but it wasn't Yorgos Lanthimos just did the directing. But The Menu is also one of those things that try to touch on this conversation about class. And yet, it doesn't really go anywhere. Same with Bugonia. It's like it touches on it and it doesn't really go anywhere. And there's a larger point I want to make on this, but for now, let's move on to Good Fortune. Good Fortune, Aziz Ansari wrote and directed and starred as the main role. And I randomly, like a couple years ago, looked up Aziz Ansari because I was wondering, like, what happened to that guy? And on Wikipedia, I saw that he was working on this movie, and I just read the very brief description, and I was so excited just from the brief description, which the premise is Aziz Ansari plays this guy who's a college graduate that can't get a job, just surviving off delivery app tasks and living in his car, gets the opportunity to be the assistant of this super rich tech bro. And this angel, played by Keanu Reeves, the tech bros played by Seth Rogen, but the angel is watching this guy's life, He realizes how down bad he is. He's thinking about ending his own life. And the angel decides to step in and save this lost soul and help him be more grateful for his life, appreciate his life, see his life anew by getting him to temporarily switch lives with his boss, this tech bro, who he's the assistant of at his house. And the point is like a classic story. Let me show you. Switch lives. You think your life would be so great if you're just like this rich person, but rich people have their own struggles. And you don't realize we all have our own struggles. And rich people just have different struggles. So that's the point. But the thing is, he switches lives and most of his problems go away. And he loves it. And all these problems that the rich guy has is like not a big deal at all. It doesn't matter. He has to go to some Zoom meetings. And sometimes they're inconvenient. Okay, whatever. Sometimes the pool stops working. It's okay. I could throw money at it to get it fixed. It's and then the angel ends up getting in trouble with the head angel because he wasn't supposed to do that in the first place, but also because bro doesn't want to switch back. He's supposed to like realize, oh yeah, he has problems too. I'm more grateful for my life now, and then switch back. But it's like, no, this is so much better. I was living in my car, barely surviving off doing these tasks on a delivery app. And now I'm in this mansion, and any problem that arises, I could just throw money at, and it's chill. And I have to go to meetings on Zoom sometimes, and that's it. And it's everything is so much better. And then you got that classic message of money doesn't buy happiness. But it's like the situation of people who are so broke that most of their income comes from the gig economy are also so under-resourced that's the life that they have to live. It's like, no, it's so much better. It's so much easier to find happiness when you have some money to handle these life situations that rise. Your car breaks down. You have a leak in the roof. You have a parking ticket. You know, like these things that just come up that could just make life so much harder when it all piles on. When you're rich, it's just chill. It's like nothing. Like, sure, you have your own problems that everybody has just because they have a human soul, like loneliness and depression, sadness, anger, fear, of course. But this class divide is like so much stronger than people realize when they say silly things like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. Rich people have their own problems too. And so that's kind of the point of the movie of like, nah, it's hard. And the rich guy has to live the other dude's life, and he thinks it's totally cool and fine and he could do it. It's not that hard, but he can't. He's just suffering. And it's a comedy, but I watched it. I don't know. I started by saying like I was going to give the brief description that I read a long time ago, but then I ended up talking about what I saw in the movie. So those all got mixed together. But anyway, I watched it, and again, I won't say the end. No, you can imagine the end. You can imagine at some point they go back. Okay, yeah. But what was funny is he didn't want to go back, but then it got to the point where he felt bad for the other guy, for the formerly rich guy that was now living his life. And so he said, okay, fine, I'll go back, just because he felt bad. But he couldn't, like the magic didn't work because he needed to want his old life. And so like the last third of the movie is them trying different things of sometimes they're trying, sometimes they're just waiting it out and living life and waiting to see like when at some point it might never happen, but at some point he needs to want his old life back, and that's only then can this switch happen. And it felt like the movie kept almost ending for like half an hour. And it felt like Aziz Ansari didn't know how to end it. And I think it's because it's like you brought so much of this larger conversation about this class divide that you couldn't really solve because the class divide is still there. Like the way you solve that is through systemic change, not individual change. So how do you end this individual story where his problems are systemic and have that ending not feel cheap? And I could just, you just like feel him struggling on the script page. Like, I don't know what to do. How about we just keep going to the next day of this character's life? How about we just keep going to the next? We'll have this deep conversation about his life or how he misses his father. All right, let's go to the next day. And it's like, when does this end? How does it? And it eventually ends. And he has a conversation where he finds some reason to want his old life back. But again, like I said, when you bring it's not enough. It doesn't go far enough. I think it's because if you want to bring in the problems of capitalism into a story, then having no sort of fight against capitalism in the story just ends up making the ending fall flat no matter how you end it. Like I think of Sorry to Bother You has a bit of that, and then it ends with like this them breaking into this CEO's house, and like it's kind of like hinting at it's the start of some sort of revolution. I think that was a good ending because it's like, okay, clearly the problems are systemic, so the solutions must be systemic. Here's the beginning of them starting that fight. But yeah, when a big, like I said, or in other words of what I just said, if the problems you're presenting in your movie are actually systemic, and then the solution is just individual, you just walk out of that movie feeling like, I was excited with the premise, but I don't know how I feel about where they went with it. And I think we just, there's other movies people have talked about too. Like this has been a conversation of how we keep seeing these, they call them eat the rich movies. And we don't really know what to do with them. And I think we're going to see more of this, especially with Zohran, Democratic Socialist Muslim homie, won the mayoral race. More people are talking about capitalism, wealth inequality, affordability. We're going to keep seeing these movies, these books, these stories, TV shows that touch on these subjects, on class. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. That's all I'll say. And so I think, we're good. We're good for this episode. And thank you for listening or watching. I appreciate you all. Like I said, go watch my new YouTube video. Oh, wait, hold on. This some of you may have clicked out right now and none of you hear anything I'm saying. But the special ones are still here. I forgot to explain the thing behind me. If you're seeing the video version, this is a sketch pad because I've been making videos on my Patreon page, just for the Patreon page. I think I've done 5 or 6 where I do like a cool little talk about some spiritual concepts, go deeper. And I've been having a great time. I think that they've been really good. But the one I just filmed this. And I drew these little examples behind me. The one I just did is the best one, I think, that I've ever done. So that's just on my Patreon. Sign up, just $5 a month. And you can watch these videos I've just been putting up there for the Patreon. I totally forgot. I was supposed to say that at the beginning. All right. We're good. Okay, bye.